Long before the roads were carved into the red earth, and before strangers brought the noise of cities to the countryside, there stood a quiet village called Oroka. It was a small place tucked between thick forests and a restless river that whispered secrets at night. The people of Oroka were simple farmers and hunters. They believed in the old gods, respected the spirits of the land, and feared the darkness that lived beyond the trees. For generations, life in Oroka moved gently like the wind through the tall grass. Until the sickness came. No one knew where it started. At first it was only old Mama Duro, who complained of fever and strange dreams. She said shadows stood beside her bed at night, whispering in voices that sounded like children crying from deep inside the forest. 3 days later she was dead. Then another villager fell ill. Then another. Soon the sickness spread like a curse. The victims burned with fever, their skin turning pale like ash. They spoke in strange voices while sleeping and sometimes screamed as if something invisible was pulling their souls away. The village healer, Baba Olurin, tried everything he knew. Herbs, sacred smoke, ancient chants. Nothing worked. People began dying every week. Fear wrapped itself around Oroka like a thick fog. Children stopped playing outside after sunset. Mothers whispered prayers. Men gathered at night, speaking in low voices about angry spirits and forgotten curses. Some said the forest spirits were angry. Others said someone in the village had offended the gods, but no one knew the truth. Then one evening, as the sun bled across the sky and the village drums were silent, a stranger arrived. He walked into Oroka slowly, leaning on a Fazi-carved staff. He wore a long white robe that brushed the dusty ground, and around his neck hung strange wooden beads carved with symbols no one in the village recognized. His face was calm. His eyes were deep and unsettling. "My name is Father Enoch," he said. His voice was gentle, yet carried a strange weight. "I was sent here." The villagers stared at him. Sent by who? He never said. But that night, when they brought a dying child to him, something impossible happened. The boy had been sick for 4 days. His body trembled with fever, and his breathing had grown weak. Father Enoch placed his hand on the child's forehead. He closed his eyes. The wind outside suddenly grew still. The fire inside the hut flickered violently, and the boy screamed. No, a scream of pain, but something else, something deeper. For a moment, his voice sounded older, like many voices speaking at once. Then suddenly, the child collapsed. Silence filled the room. The villagers gasped. The boy slowly opened his eyes. The fever was gone. The sickness had vanished. That was the night everything changed. Word spread through Oroka like wildfire. The strange priest couldn't heal. People came from every corner of the village. Sick children, weak elders, trembling men and women, who believed death was already waiting for them. Father Enoch healed them all. Each time he performed the ritual, the same thing happened. The wind stopped. The fire danced violently. The patient screamed. Then the sickness disappeared. Soon the villagers began to call him a miracle worker, a messenger of the gods. Some even whispered that he was a holy man sent from the spirit world to save Oroka. But not everyone trusted him. Baba Olurin, the old village healer, watched everything carefully. His wrinkled eyes followed Father Enoch wherever he went. There was something wrong, something the others could not see. Power like this always comes with a price, the old healer muttered one night. But no one listened. Hope had returned to Oroka, and hope can make people blind. Weeks passed. The sickness slowly vanished from the village. The people celebrated Father Enoch like a hero. They built him a small shrine beside the sacred tree. They brought him gifts, food, animals, money, everything they could offer. Father Enoch accepted it all with quiet smiles. But at night, he never slept. Instead, he walked alone into the forest. No one knew why, except one person, Ada, Ada was a young woman whose younger brother had been one of the first people healed by the priest. She admired Father Enoch, but curiosity slowly grew in her heart. One night, she followed him through the silent village into the forest. The deeper they went, the colder the air became. Finally, Father Enoch stopped in a small clearing. Ada hid behind a tree. Watching what she saw next froze the blood in her veins. The priest began to dig into the earth. From beneath the soil, he pulled out something wrapped in cloth. Bones. Human bones. Dozens of them. Skulls, ribs, small ones, big ones. Ada covered her mouth to stop herself from screaming. Father Enoch arranged the bones in a strange circle. Then he began to chant in a language that sounded ancient and wrong. The wind rose violently. The trees groaned, and from the center of the bone circle, a shadow began to form. It moved like smoke. But it had a shape. A terrible shape, the shadow whispered, and Father Enoch answered it. His voice was no longer calm. It trembled with desperation. "I have done everything you asked," he said. "Take the sickness away. Leave these people alone." The shadow hissed. Ada felt her body shaking. She realized something horrifying. The priest was not curing the sickness. He was bargaining with it. And the sickness was alive. Suddenly the shadow spoke. "You promised more souls." Father Enoch fell to his knees. "I gave you the old ones, the weak, the dying. That was not enough." The shadow's voice echoed like hundreds of whispers. "You owe me." Ada's heart pounded. Then she understood the terrible truth. The priest had not come to save the village. He had brought the sickness with him. Years ago, in another land, Father Enoch had discovered a forbidden ritual. A way to gain supernatural power, but the ritual demanded sacrifices, human souls. When he first summoned the dark spirit, he believed he could control it. He was wrong. The spirit demanded more and more lives. So he fled from place to place, bringing the sickness with him, pretending to cure it, while secretly feeding the spirit with victims. Oroka was only the latest village, and now the spirit wanted more. Ada accidentally stepped on a dry branch. Crack! Father Enoch turned instantly. Their eyes met. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then the priest whispered one word. "Run, word, run." The shadow spirit rose from the bone circle like black smoke. It sensed her fear, and fear excited it. "You brought me a fresh soul," it whispered. Father Enoch stood up quickly. "No," the shadow laughed. "You cannot protect them forever." Before it could touch her, Father Enoch stepped between them. The spirit struck him instead. He screamed in agony. The ground shook violently. The bone circle shattered, and the spirit vanished into the darkness. Ada ran back to the village in terror. By morning, everyone knew the truth. The bones were found, the rituals discovered, and Father Enoch's secret spread through Oroka like fire. The villagers were furious, betrayed. They dragged the priest to the center of the village. People who once praised him now shouted for his death. "You brought the curse. You killed our people. You lied to us." Father Enoch did not defend himself. He simply looked exhausted, broken. "I tried to stop it," he said quietly. But the villagers no longer cared. Greed had blinded them before. No anger blinded them. They tied him to the sacred tree. Baba Olorin stepped forward slowly. The old healer looked at the priest with deep sadness. "You should have told the truth," he said. Father Enoch closed his eyes. "I thought I could fix it." The old healer shook his head. Darkness never bargains fairly. The villagers lit the fire. Flames rose around Father Enoch. And as the fire climbed higher, the wind suddenly stopped. The same unnatural silence from the healing rituals returned. Baba Olorin's eyes widened. He realized something too late. The priest had not been controlling the spirit. he had been holding it back. The moment Father Enoch screamed his final breath, the shadow returned. Stronger, hungrier, and this time, no one remained who knew how to stop it. The sickness returned to Oroka within days, but now there was no miracle healer, no one to bargain with the darkness. One by one, the villagers who condemned the priest began to fall ill. And every night, the forest whispered with voices that sounded like Father Enoch, still begging the spirit to spare them. But the spirit no longer listened, because the only man who knew how to control it was gone. And that is how the village of Oroka slowly disappeared from the world. Today, if you walk deep enough into the old forests where the red earth roads end, you might find the ruins of a forgotten village, broken huts, a burned sacred tree. And sometimes, when the wind stops completely, you might hear whispers from the darkness, still waiting, still hungry. End of story.